Muchas gracias, buenas tardes.
Thank you so much and good afternoon. Appreciate your participation, your invitation to be able to share my experiences. We will be sharing the importance of these calls to participate in this great movement of Laudato Si and the platform. And in these few moments, I will share some experiences and some opportunities to help us relate our spirituality with our critical concerns and the objectives of Laudato Si.
Nos volvemos a contextualizar y obviamente que los
We
asuntos
want to contextualize this, and obviously the critical concerns come from the Sisters of Mercy, and they are intimately tied to the Laudato Si goals. Here I have tried to put them together side by side, and you can see how the Laudato Si goals correspond in so many ways. And it's a way of responding to the call of the Holy Spirit that we have heard from so long. It's care for our common home and an integrated approach. The critical concerns were agreed upon before the 7 goals of Laudato Si, but there is a huge connection between both of these sets of concerns and goals. Laudato Si, as Angela was saying, there's more than 400 congregations have joined this movement, invited by Pope Francis, and all of us commit to responding to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor, to adopt different ways of making these goals real, to have sustainable lives, work on ecological economy, ecological education, and to work on resilience and empowerment of communities. All of these things are new in a way, but they're also very old. The idea of integrating the cry of the earth with the cry of the poor, giving us an integrated vision of how to care for the earth. So being since the Sisters of Mercy are part of this movement, we have a great opportunity to bring our experiences towards transformation, to have greater integrity between what we say and what we do, between our word and deed. And we are backed up by so many statements and intentions that we have had throughout time. Our participation as Sisters of Mercy commits us and will continue committing us in programs and policies that are already in progress. And in this program, we'll share different testimonies. There's diverse initiatives from macro kinds of things to very micro grassroots things. We're talking about theological reflection on extractivism that we have been sharing on the platforms from last year till now. We have already, we've also committed to rethinking our lifestyles to do so in such way that we can be in coherence with the survival of the planet. I'd like to begin this presentation by talking a little bit about the context of my contribution. I think all contributions have their context. I live with my sisters in community at the end of the world, as Pope Francis has said. It's in the Latin American continent, in the country of Argentina. And in Argentina, in a particular province, which is called Florinda, and a city called Clorinda. So from this map, from this context, is where the experience comes from that I'm going to be sharing. It's important for you to see the sisters that are involved in this movement. I also want to talk about my cultural Christian context and the social context of my ministry. As Angela said, I share my life and have done so for many years with indigenous peoples of the country, in the northern area of the country especially. So the contribution that I make from the wealth of sharing with indigenous peoples in Argentina.
Thank you, Sister Rosita.
So sorry, it was cut off.
Good, just making sure.
So being part of this movement of Laudato Si is part of what we are doing. For us in Latin America, this concept of integrated ecology is very important. And it was something that was offered by Pope Francis and was contextualized in the continent with the Synod of the Amazon, where the expressions beloved Amazon and the Ecclesial Assembly were born. Because from our continent, we believe we can illuminate what's happening globally. So from our experiences, we have discovered the importance of biodiversity, the importance of the biodiversity on our planet. Not only do we have climate crises, we also have a crisis of the destruction of biodiversity, which is also a representation of our interconnection. All of this is related. People, human beings, vegetation, animal, we are a single being. And as Pope Francis has said, everything is connected. These are the 7 goals of Laudato Si that have already been presented in the video. And I want to share how they have been expressed in our reality in the Southern Cone in Argentina, in our community. Both the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor are we're looking at ways of responding to the concrete needs of the people. We have water, rain barrels and water container systems that are different than the ones that people have had to use all along. It's not potable water, but it's a contribution to have larger cisterns that function better. So this is one way of responding to the cry of our people during the climate crisis. I say we are not all on the same boat. Some of us are on a cruise ship, some of us are on yachts, some of us are on rafts, and some of us are swimming. So providing water cisterns in a time of pandemic has been a significant thing. So each image says something about this. It says about why we as Sisters of Mercy want to keep working towards these goals, because all of these goals have to do with our own critical concerns as well, and a way of expressing God's love for God's people. We have also been working on putting solar panels on various school buildings, helping to provide clean energy. This week in Argentina, we are celebrating the Week of Indigenous Peoples, and our slogan is Biodiversity and Indigenous Peoples, because we're talking about their cosmovision and their way of relating to the planet, because that allows us to have a fuller life, and it allows a fuller life for all society to relate to the earth in the way they do. So my contribution is especially contextualized in the experience, as I said, of sharing life with Indigenous peoples, because they really have an ecological spirituality and a connection with the creation, which is very important. Another way in which we as sisters are looking at the Laudato Si goals and the critical concerns is to be present in the different networks that are advocating locally, nationally, and at the level of the continent on legislative policies and also in the area of rights. We are members of a big movement which is called Church and Mining. This is a space where we reaffirm the importance of ethical investments and divestment from everything that has to do with fossil fuels and fuels that contaminate our planet. Why should sisters be there? Because it responds intimately to our call to care for our common home, especially care for water and care and defense of the earth. So this is, you can see in each presentation, you can see the symbols of the goals that we think our actions relate to. When we talk about the defense of land, we're talking about helping people in the community to empower themselves. And one of the goals is precisely to defend Indigenous territories because they have so much to do with the identity of our populations. In our communities, in remote Indigenous areas, everything that we do in community organization, in defending their rights from the violations of the companies and the governments, all of this has to do with empowering communities, empowering women, empowering young people. And it has a strong component of strengthening participation and work of defense. In this case, defending territories, which is also defending biodiversity that helps all of us. The cry of the poor is saying that it's important for our rights to be respected. These are cries that we as Sisters of Mercy have heard and are accompanying in various areas. Here is a sign that says, um, no to logging, no to mining. There are extractive industries that we are convinced after seeing what's happening, there are extractive industries that should end. We have been participating actively in various lobbying efforts as well to promote laws. In our continent, there's the Escazú agreement, where it was very important for the country to ratify this accord. So there was a huge campaign. We were part of that movement. We participated in various conferences and international congresses to be able to advocate to make sure that this convention would be ratified by the Argentinian state, and we were successful. We are networks, and so we're working with a lot of other groups when we do this. I want to make sure you understand that. And also, I want to talk about some actions that are small but important, small but big actions. And the idea that what we do locally has repercussions globally. These small actions are taking place at the doors of our house. This is one where we see Sister Estela, who is taking care of the garden. And these have to do with sustainable economies, where we try to live what we say by taking these small steps. This Sister Cristina in Buenos Aires, and she's sharing her produce with neighbors. These are very small examples, but they help us, just like national advocacy does and like continent-wide advocacy does. Everything goes hand in hand. Also, you can see how some of our girls and boys in some formal educational settings and some informal settings as well are being introduced to the idea of ecological awareness. This awareness has all of these objectives translated into small but very important actions. We believe that at this time, the Sisters of Mercy, along with many other groups and networks, are able to be in solidarity with others through the Sisters of Mercy. And this sense of solidarity, according to Pope Francis, is to struggle against structural causes of poverty, inequality, the lack of work, the lack of land and shelter, and the negation of labor and human rights. We need to confront these effects of the capitalist empire that leaves so many people out, and that is our primary call. This integrated understanding of how to care for the earth is a way of making sure that the cry of the earth is inseparable from the cry of the poor. And that's our greatest concern and call.
Lo expresa el Papa Francisco, ¿no? Desarrollar una amorosa, podríamos decir, una misericordiosa y tierna conciencia de que en esta casa común estamos compartiendo en íntima interrelación con todos y todas y con todo lo creado. Y lo que puede hacerse en este confín del mundo, como es la Argentina, el último país de América Latina, repercute en toda nuestra comunidad, asimismo como lo que se puede
In
hacer
all of the community of the world, it is a great resource to help us feel connected and committed to care for our common home.